Brendan Jones has been studying leadership and organizational development for over 10 years. He's the former program director for the Rogo School of Leadership, where he recruited and developed a pipeline of leaders to fuel the explosive growth of Sandals Church as they went from 3 to 14 locations over a 5-year span. He is a speaker, a consultant, a certified Enneagram coach, and a 6 types of working genius certified facilitator. He currently resides in Riverside with his wife and 2 young children. Brendan, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect, yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining the session. And yeah, we've had a lot of great experiences with the earlier sessions. I know there's been a lot of great content. I want to just give you guys a quick disclaimer. Really been kind of under the weather lately. I don't know what's going on with me. Got some sort of virus, and if you can see my face kind of got swollen. So if I'm a little bit off my game, maybe a little foggy or something, I got some medications running through me. So just a heads up, might become if I pass out or something, just, you can change the channel. There's some other good stuff going on. But let's jump into it. Take a vacation already. How to empower your team to succeed without you. This is really primarily focused on current and aspiring team leaders, but the content, these ideas, really, I think they can be used by anybody who just wants to improve their team, or even use these concepts to help maybe lead up leadership above them. And so let's get started. Take a vacation already. It's a little, I just wanted kind of maybe a playful title, right? Catch people's attention. The title came from a thought exercise that I went through not too long ago, and I was imagining what if you went on a vacation to like somewhere remote, somewhere exotic, somewhere exciting, hopefully. And you had to leave your team for 2 weeks, right? How would you feel with that? Would you be okay with that? And they had to handle the day-to-day, whatever surprises came up. And if maybe you're good with that, and that's great. So maybe this is more about the leader and the team in the other department that might have some issues. Oh, I forgot. No Wi-Fi. Does that change it? Does that change anything? So this is not like a remote working situation, right? This is it's all on them. Can they handle it? Or you can be able to come back in 2 weeks, or is nothing have gotten done, right? And so some of the issues maybe that might be coming up that you might be thinking about, well, maybe they can't cover everything I do because maybe they don't know all the things you do. Wouldn't vacation somewhere with no Wi-Fi. Good point. Just a thought exercise, but yeah, I wouldn't either. Autonomy, maybe there's some autonomy issues on your team, right? Maybe they get stuck easily, or they need to be given direction. So if you're not there to give them the directions, maybe you're concerned that not a lot will get done, or maybe there's some confidence issues. They may be a bit hesitant, afraid to make mistakes. And these are some main issues that we're going to talk about. What you can do is you can teach them to do what you do. That's going to minimize the coverage gaps, right? You can empower them to think like an owner. That will help them take initiative without you, and you can coach them to their potential, and that will help them to be inspired to bring their best. So these are kind of the 3 sections of this talk today, and after each one, I'm going to pause if there are any questions. At the end, also pause for questions, just so that's kind of the format going forward. Feel free to throw things in the chat. Right now, I've got that up as well. Well, let's jump into section 1, teach. So teach them to do what you do. What do you do? What are all the things you do day to day, week to week, month to month, every year? Maybe some of the things you brought with you from another role, or maybe there was some shifting of roles. Maybe some things you took on because nobody was doing them, or nobody was doing them well enough. And just take a mental list of all the things you do and which of those things could really only be done by you. Which of those things can only be done by you? And probably most of those things could be done by others, right? And so you think of like the day-to-day tasks you have, but also like maybe leading a meeting. Do you always have to be the one to lead that meeting or to be on a project team or a committee? Do you have to run that report or send those communications? Even signing a document, do you have to always sign for everything? You'd be surprised how many leaders feel like their signature is the one that needs to be there. And there's no real business case, there's no business need for that. They just feel that need. And we're talking about being able to increase their ability to cover for you. Not necessarily that you're going to give away this forever, but who can you train maybe to lead that meeting for you so that they can cover for you if needed? You can still lead that meeting. Now, delegation is a good idea, but that's a whole other talk. That's a whole other topic. And so I just want to kind of be clear of the scope of what we're talking about right now. Is to just take inventory of the things that you're doing and figure out where there are opportunities to invite others in to some training, and then we can better cover each other's gaps. So let's get down to the application of this. This first section and the third section are kind of shorter, and this second one is bigger. Just a heads up. Let's make a list. So you just literally write out all the things that you do. And it's okay if you don't get them all right away, right? Bookmark that file, save it, then come back to it next month when something else comes up. Okay, I'll add it to it. And the beauty of when you've written it down on a list is that now you can add a column and you can say, okay, who can I train to do this? And now you can kind of track it from there much easier. And watch you do it on your own. That's kind of the training method that I prefer. There are a lot of different ways to train people. I kind of prefer the 3-tiered approach where the first time I'll do it and you watch and help me. The second time, let's turn that around. You do it, but I'll watch and I'll help you. Third time, try to do it on your own. If you can do it on your own, then you get the golden check mark and it's kind of officially, you've learned it and now you can do that. So I've got a free template. It's just a spreadsheet. I mean, you can use whatever you want, but it's something, resource I just put out there for you guys if you want to use it. It's got like a drop down and stuff changes colors automatically and stuff, just to help you do this. So that's out there. But that's section 1. That's teaching them to do what you do. So I know that was quick, but let's pause there and see if there are any questions on understanding. Can I explain something better? Or was there maybe a situation that you're not sure how that will apply? I'll just pause here. If there are no questions, we can move on. That's cool too.
So I have a question.
Go for it.
This Joy. So how would you implement doing that for knowing that your staff are already overworked and trying to teach them that something new, that other task that they can take on during that time?
Yeah, that's real important, Joy. Kind of you're anticipating they might not be too excited to hear that, hey, here, let me add something else to your plate, right? Yeah, definitely. Well, I think those are that's probably an issue that needs to be resolved first, right? Because like I think you're implying that they're not going to be too receptive to new things, to learning new extra things when they already feel like they're at capacity. And so that probably needs to be addressed somehow in terms of reallocation, of duties, or I mean, that's probably a whole nother, there's a lot there, right? But somehow once they're feeling more comfortable, then you can do this. So that would be, I suppose, a bit. Then this is going to be a struggle. So I'll just put it at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joy. I didn't really answer your question. I just said you kind of got to solve your problem and then do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty much it though, right?
Yeah. There's not. Yeah, that's just the honest truth. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just zoom on to number 2. Let's see. We've got section 2 is empower them to think like an owner. Now, this is really the meat and potatoes of this talk. This is the thing that I'm most excited to talk about. Section 1 and 3 are the bread of the, I don't know, meat and potato sandwich. That's not right. Something. You understand what I'm saying. But empower them to think like an owner. This is so powerful. This is so powerful. And this is potentially going to be a big deal for some. Might not be for others, but this could be a really big deal. And let me explain more. So what we want to do is we want to shift the team's mindset from being a contributor to an owner, from a contributor to an owner. And what I mean by that is a contributor mindset is that they're going to act when prompted. They're completing tasks. There's kind of not reason to do extra. They're accountable for what's handed to them. And there's really not a lot of thinking that's required in the scope of that kind of a mindset. But an owner mindset, they're able to take initiative and they're responsible for the results. They're willing to go above and beyond and be accountable for the bigger picture. And like, there's a lot of thinking that's required there, right? You can be problem solving. There's a lot going on there. And so this is what we want to do, right? Why? Let's start here. Why do they have contributor mindset? Where does that come from? And the answer is, well, we gave it to them. We leaders, organizations, we probably gave it to them. There's a tendency to narrow the scope of employees' work, and the larger the organization, the larger this tendency is to narrow the scope of what they do. Just do this, do it this way, do it just like this. And I mean, the reasons for that are we want to control the output, we want to control the consistency and potentially the quality. So there are reasons for it. Policies are an example of kind of how this comes to play, where we create policies of how things need to be done and in what circumstances things are okay. And kind of we're taking out the thinking from the individual and we're putting into writing, just do this instead. Don't think, just do this. I have here a note about Netflix. Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, he wrote a book, No Rules, about Netflix and their culture. And he kind of realized this about policies, that they kind of took away the thinking from his employees, and he didn't want that. And so he's kind of anti-policy. So at Netflix right now, right, they're a big company, like you've heard of them. Their expense policy, right, like you needed to go take a business trip. What ticket are you allowed to get? Allowed to fly first class or coach, or what kind of room are you allowed to get? Which meals can you expense? Like, their whole expense policy is do what's best for Netflix. Like, that's the whole policy. And so you talk about really being able to empower the employees to think. Like, that's a great example. He's really, he turned policies from really rules. It's kind of like the pirate code, right? He turns them in, they're more like guidelines. So that's the idea. Let's maybe turn them more like guidelines than actual rules. But this is the thing, when we reduce the role of the employee so much, where they're basically just machines on an assembly line. And people are not machines, right? They're people. I mean, hopefully you knew that already, but people are not machines, they're people. Why would we reduce their role, the scope of what they do, and remove the thinking part from them? Excuse me. The thinking is their best asset. That's what they are bringing to the table. That's what makes us, that's what we bring versus a machine. Assembly line might get things done quickly, but you want something different, they're not gonna be able to make something different. You have to tear that whole assembly line apart. So I'm assuming that most of us, we deal with solutions, with products, with services that are more people-oriented, people-focused. And so being flexible, problem solving, those kinds of things are very valuable to us, not really assembly line teams. When we reduce their ability to think, we're really reducing their greatest asset. That's kind of their humanity. Why are we going to take that away from them, right? So we want, this is why it's so important to empower them to think like an owner instead of a contributor. We can't prepare them for every scenario. And so what we want to do is we want to increase their ability to respond to new and different situations, right? That's where that thinking comes in. And I've heard it said like this by a leader I respect a lot. He has this characteristic, he says agility. When people have agility, he's not talking about physical flexibility. He says they know what to do when they don't know what to do, right? And maybe you're like, yeah. Wait, what? You don't know what to do, but then you do know what to do, right? It's kind of a paradox, right? But it kind of makes sense. The idea is that if you get stuck, you can get unstuck. So you can kind of never get stuck. And somehow, when you find yourself in a weird situation, you know what to do. You're able to talk to somebody or research something or try something or look something up. You're able to figure out what to do. And now the Air Force has a similar term. It's an acronym they call OODA. I don't know if some of you have heard of this. OODA, OODA. Stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. Now, this is a decision-making framework they use. When you're flying up in the sky, things happen fast. And so this is the kind of method they teach. Observe, look around, get information. Orient, kind of get your bearings, get some context. Decide, like figure out what needs to happen next. And then act, do it. Now, for most people, the observe and orient part that's fine, but really it's right in the middle. That's where potentially the sticking point comes, the decide and act. You may not feel like you have authority to decide something or that you have permission, or you might not feel comfortable doing that. And so what we need to do as leaders is we need to clarify the decisions they can make. Has anybody ever done that for you? Has anybody said, this is what you're allowed to decide? Like think about how empowering that would be. Oh, okay, I kind of always wasn't quite sure, or maybe I didn't know about this. I need to check in somewhere else first. Like just how much of a gift could that be to your team to let them know this is what they can make. Now the thing about this is, if we just tell them their decisions, say, hey, team, if a support ticket comes in, close to the end of the day, I'll let you decide. Is that a today thing or a tomorrow thing? Well, I think we know that's always going in the tomorrow bucket. So it's also important, not just what decisions can you make, but also what results they're going to own. So I said, hey team, you could decide, when that support ticket's worked on, but oh, hey, by the way, you're owning the result of the customer service, right? So I want 5 out of 5 stars on all those support tickets. But then they get to decide if that's a today thing or tomorrow thing. Well, now those are connected. Now all of a sudden they understand the goal, but they have the agency to kind of make that happen, right? And so that's how it makes sense and it's connected. The Ritz-Carlton hotel chain is a great example. They have a procedure where any employee can spend up to $2,000 per incident to resolve some sort of issue with a customer. Either maybe there's a problem with the hotel room or the meal, or maybe it wasn't even the hotel's fault, but they just saw that there was something that was affecting that customer's stay in a negative way. Every employee knows they're empowered. They can decide to just spend up to $2,000. They don't have to get anybody's approval. They can spend it to make it right, to turn that negative experience into a peak experience for that customer. I mean, talk about empowering your people to get the results, right? Because what were they all held responsible for? They want those 5 out of 5 customer reviews, right? They want 6 out of 5 stars, really. And they get it because of things like this, right? So what you want to find yourself saying more and more is, you decide. Team comes to you with an issue, you decide. And not in like a brushing off way, like I'm too busy, don't bother with that. But in like no, you can make that decision. If you can help them think it out, okay, well, what are some options? You could do this, you could do that. Okay, well, you decide. You get to choose which of those options. And this can help them kind of complete that OODA loop, right? And not get stuck in just the ooh part, right? It can help them learn and feel empowered to decide and act. You're not empowering people to make any meaningful decisions. You're not empowering them to think, right? And that's definitely what we want to do. So application is you can write out the results from each team, for each team member, what they're going to own and what they can decide, like literally write it out. And this could be a living document, so it doesn't need to be a one-time thing. And talk about it with them and update it. Probably as things come up, maybe you'll add to it. Oh, this is something that I didn't think about before, but from now on, you can just take that on. You can decide about that. I've got also a free template to do that. I mean, it's just a Word, it's a Google Doc, but if you want to use it, you can use it. But feel free, obviously, to just use your favorite tool to do that. That brings us to the end of the second section, empowered to think like an owner. Any questions on some of that content, something you didn't understand, or something you want maybe further explained, or the situation that you're not sure how that would apply?
Brendan, you gave the example with Netflix's policy on, just how
basically no policy.
Yeah, how do you empower employees when we're in the UC system with our lovely bureaucracy of policies that we have to follow?
Yeah, I mean, not all the policies are under your control, right? So that's maybe just the reality, depending on your organization that you're gonna have to live in. But maybe the point is to maybe look at, well, within your team, within your scope, maybe even one level higher, or you maybe have some influence with that leadership. What are some policies that maybe we can, pirate code them, right? Treat them. Yeah, there's some good intent here, but can these be more like guidelines? Are these really necessary? And just kind of finding those opportunities, because they kind of just come. It's like a silent killer, right? Just like one little policy after another, and all of a sudden now we've got all these things, and so it just helps to kind of look at those and kind of push back on them. If you heard my cat, but
I did see the cat, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the Pirates of the Caribbean reference as well.
Yeah. All right. Any others, or we'll move on to this last section and then.
I have one.
Okay.
Hi, Brendan. So thank you for teaching us this. How do you empower individuals that are not even up to par to where they're able to take on responsibilities, or they're not wanting to take responsibility when you're teaching them? I always see monkey do, and then I become a fly in the wall. But how do you do that and empower them when they don't want that responsibility or that delegation assigned to them?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you say is that sometimes a team member will have an attitude that kind of feels like, I just want to live in this box. Like, I'm kind of okay with this box that you've given me, and kind of being pressured or invited to expand a little bit is not something I'm interested in, not something I'm excited about, or maybe something I'm nervous about. And that can definitely be a real thing. There's probably something going on there. And so that's, there's going to need to be a little bit of a investigating. But I would say,
do you have any suggestions or tips of how to overcome that, or even empowering them just a little bit and just do it in increments rather than one big giant step? Is there like some tips and tricks we can utilize?
Yes, well, I think, and maybe let's come back to this after this next section, because I think this next section might hit on what you're saying. But right now, I'll say that you definitely, like, need to use your judgment about kind of how much you're releasing to them at once, based on what they're ready for or what they want. But let's look at section 3, I think, and then if that didn't give you some answers, then we can always come back to this. All right, but thanks for that question right now. All right, well, let's just jump to number 3, because I think that speaks to, was that Herlinda's question? Yeah. So we're gonna coach them to the potential, right? That's number 3. We want to teach them to do what you do. We don't empower them to think like an owner, and we're gonna coach them to the potential, right? This is how, I'm trying to get you all to Tahiti, all right? This is how you can leave your team for 2 weeks, right? Or, so coach them to the potential. So if you're the team leader, that means that you're the team coach, okay? Now, I just want to take a minute, because some of you, maybe you're new, or maybe you just haven't thought about this before, being a coach, right? If you're the team leader, that means you're the team coach. So the coach, it's the role of the coach to get the best out of their players, right? Maybe you need to put on your jersey, put on your coach hat. Let's think about baseball. Why is baseball? Baseball is the only sport where coaches wear like a uniform that the players wear, right? All the other sports, the coaches wear like a suit. Why is that? I don't know. Sorry, got sidetracked. But you are the team coach. That's your role. In section 1, we talked about what are the things that only you can do. This is one of the things only you can do. You are the coach of the team. This is something that uniquely is for you to do. And you need to get the best out of your players. So how do you get the best out of your players? Well, you got to know what their best is, first of all. And a great way to do that is to use some of the marketplace tools out there to identify what are their strengths, right? You probably could identify some things that you've seen in them that you know, but the benefit of using some tool from the marketplace is that it's going to be a more well-rounded assessment, and it's probably going to show you some things that you didn't know, because maybe you didn't have the opportunity to observe that strength because it didn't come out. It didn't come out in their day-to-day role, or you just didn't see it. And so that's why now there are a lot of tools out there. I'm just going to plug 2 that I think are premium. Working Genius, right? Y'all heard maybe that I was Working Genius certified. That's, I think, a great tool. Clifton Strengths is also, I think, an excellent tool. It used to be called Strengths Finder, if you remember that. These are two excellent resources. You can send assessments to your team, get back information about them, and that will show you these are their strengths. That way, you can coach them towards that. The second thing is you need coach time, okay? You need coach time with them. And what I see a lot is, say, well, yeah, I have one-on-one time with all my people, but one-on-one time so often gets kind of turned into just project updates. What's been going on lately? What do you got on your plate? What's an update on this project? And that's not coach time, right? That's not me coaching you about your strengths or what you need to be working on in a bigger picture way, right? So you need that coach time. If you need updates, then that's fine, but make sure those are separate, right? Schedule both of those. And what I've seen is that if you need the updates, sometimes that can be done in like a team setting. You can just get a whole team together, update. But that's just a side note. And actually, side note, the more frequently you do that, the shorter that can be. If you do it every day, you can just meet with your team for 5-10 minutes. But that's a whole nother topic, a whole other. I'm a big advocate of the daily stand-up meeting, but that's another sign. Yeah, Alex posting Working Genius in there.
Oh yes, Brendan, if I could just say something really quick, since you said about the Working Genius. If anybody wants to take the Working Genius assessment, my team is available, and Brendan is certified in it, that we can go out and we could give you all the assessment and do that workshop. We also have another facilitator that is certified in Clifton Strengths. So if you're interested in that, I highly encourage you to email our HR training contacts, but I really highly encourage you to fill out the EOD listserv, get on our listserv, because that's when you're going to see these opportunities posted, and you're going to know about what the professional development opportunities that the EOD team is offering. So thank you. And thank you so much for the props in the chat, Sarah.
Yes, exactly. Thanks for that, Alex. And I'll even just back up. Yeah, if you are not sure what tool to use, I mean, if you're a UCR, which probably all of you are, but like you said, these two, we have resources. But yeah, reach out to somebody in your organization. Somebody knows about tools out there. And if you don't know, HR is probably the best place to start in any organization. So yeah, so you need coach time. And let's see. All right. So when we get to application, how do you apply this? So set up recurring coach time with each of your team members, and you're going to remind them during that time of the strengths and the potential you see in them. Now, this is like obvious, or it seems so obvious you don't even say it, but it's so often just we don't do it, right? Like literally every time you're meeting with them, like speak words to them. Say, these are the things that I see in you. These are the strengths that you have that I know are in there. Like, just how positive can that be? Like, you don't know how life-giving that can be to people to hear good things, especially from your boss, your supervisor, or your teammate, right? So this is so important. I can't stress this enough. Every time you're in a coaching meeting with them, you can be doing all kinds of things in there, but don't forget to, at some point, remind them of these are the positive things I see in you. I want to see more of these things, and be specific, right? And that's how these tools can help you. These are the strengths that you have that I see in you. And here's the thing. Some people don't even know. They don't even know themselves that well. So they might not see that as a strength. They might not, they're just like, oh, that's just, everybody can do that. That's not special. And this is your opportunity to say, no, that is special. That is a strength that you bring to our team. Please continue to bring that every day with energy and verve, right? Like, you can help people understand themselves better. That's such a gift. That's so important for the coach to be able to do that to their team. And then you want to help them identify an area to work on and one actionable step to work on. I like to just work on one thing at a time. That's my personal preference. And I try to keep it a short window. Hey, here's the thing I'm going to do. And it's going to be something I can do in the next 2 to 6 weeks. And whenever we meet, I'm not giving you one more thing every time. If that thing's not done, then it's not done. And when it gets done, then we'll give you another thing. But that's part of the coach's role too, is helping them identify what is that one thing that they can work on right now. This is the last thing I just want to say. I just want to help you kind of embrace this. Get really good at being a coach. Like, that is, we said it before, that is probably the most important part of your role if you're managing a team, is being that coach. So embrace that. Like, run with it. Get really good at being a coach. Read about it, learn about it, ask people about it. Do whatever you can to increase your coaching ability. It's a great leader, Craig Groeschel, and he always says, when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. That's exactly why this is important. When the leader gets better, everyone gets better. So when you increase your coaching ability, your whole team is going to benefit from that. All right, guys, that's the end. Those are 3 steps. Teach your team to do what you do, empower them to think like an owner, coach them to the potential, and you can head to Tahiti for 2 weeks. Any questions about any of this stuff, any of these topics? Let's see, what was that one?
Brendan, it's Joy. I have another question.
Go for it.
So in the coaching aspect and trying to monitor to see what strengths and weaknesses, how would you go about doing that if you aren't really involved in their day-to-day or even see what they're putting out because they're just using a different system, or you don't go into the system, you're not a part of their emails?
Okay, so you're saying their kind of day-to-day work is a little bit removed from you, and so you're not as able to maybe articulate some of their strengths based on that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. Okay. Can you get a little bit closer to them? Is there like a technical barrier there, divide?
I'm just trying to think, do I have them copy me on the emails that they send out, or have them forward
Oh, I
to me
see.
something that, so I'm just trying to think, how do I include myself in here to see it?
You're just not feeling like you see all of their output of what they're doing, because
Correct.
it's kind of directed towards other departments, other people, other customers.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And normally you only hear back from someone you're servicing, and when there's a negative, you rarely hear the positive. So, how can I insert myself in there?
Yeah, well, the great thing about some of these tools, right, Working Genius, Clip and Strengths, is that they can give you insight where you might not have had easy access to insight as well before, right? So if they take the Clip and Strengths, you might find out, oh, they are really good at connecting with people. I wasn't able to observe that, but now I know that's something they have. Or if you take a Working Genius, oh, they're really good at asking good questions. And so these tools can help you ascertain that. Deanna, that's a great point as well. I was going to hit that. You can solicit feedback from others. That's also a great option. You said you only hear back. That's common, right? If we don't ask for it, we're going to hear back when it's a negative. But you can ask proactively, send a little survey out, and that's a good way of kind of understanding how others are experiencing them, because they're on the other end of receiving, working with them than maybe you are.
Great, that helps me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Sarah's point is very poignant as well. The tools give us a common language to talk about work and strengths. So if you use one of these tools, it's going to give you that insight to their strengths, but also it's going to give you language to talk about it. So now you're coaching with them. Now you can talk about it, and you're saying the same thing. They're understanding what it is, and it's just much easier to talk about when you all have that kind of that base level understanding of what's going on.
One thing I wanted to add, Brendan, is I really appreciated number 2. That's going to help me a lot, because one of the things that I often say is, which I tell people not to do it, but I still do it. It's just leadership, right? Sometimes we do, and we don't want to do that. But I tell my team, like, I just want you to take initiative, right? But what does that mean? What does that mean for them? You really need to put those goals in place. And so when, I think it was Linda that asked that question, how can I empower my team member to not think like an individual contributor, but to think like an owner? Because sometimes I need my team member to just do whatever it is they need to do without me telling them what to do, and just do it. And so I really, one of the things that I have done in the last, I think, day or two with this conference that we have is, if my team member has taken something off my plate, is to really praise them for, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sending that email out. I meant to ask you, but I just haven't had the opportunity because we've been in the staff conference. Thank you. But that right there is something that was so enlightening to me, because I want to have my team members not think like an individual contributor, but think like an owner. And I didn't have the right language for it. And so I think that was super powerful. So thank you for that.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad that connected with you. That's great. You're giving them praise for taking that off your plate, because what you praise is going to get repeated, right?
Right.
I don't know that. Linda, did this the last section kind of help address some of what you were talking about? Your question, I think, was about
yes and no. I just know that so I deal with medical students and undergrads and clinical faculty, and some of them they're hesitant, especially clinical faculty, because their workload is overfilling. So I've come just to realize, just to give them one little task instead of like giving them the whole project that they need to handle. But sometimes just they don't even want to have that responsibility or taking that ownership. So I was trying to figure out if you can give me additional tips and tricks that I might be able to use, or verbiage that might empower them more than what I'm doing. So I give them, instead of giving them the whole forest, I give them a little baby tree, and I'm like, okay, this is what you're assigned for this week. Can I have you complete it? And if they don't, they're like, it's okay. I'm glad you tried. Can we work on it before next schedule week? You know, but I was trying to figure out what else I can say or do to give them that power, and have them become ownerships, and then have them then become a leader. I've had some students where I pulled them from one project and put them on a new project, and I talked to them and I mentored them, and in turn I ended up having a huge poster that we just recently did, a research poster award. And she literally praised me, saying, thank you so very much. I wouldn't have thought I was capable of such a task, but I just was hoping that maybe you can give me additional verbiage or language that I could use other than what I'm already using.
Yeah, I think you're picking up, probably you're perceiving that some people are, maybe their experience or their skills are not quite there to give them full-blown responsibility for something. So how do you approach that situation? And I think you need to, assess that correctly, which is good. But if you are kind of cutting their food for them, right, and feeding them one piece at a time, it's going to be hard for them to learn to do that on their own. And so I think you probably want to find a way to move towards telling them the end goal that you want them responsible for. And then you can work with them on figuring out what their next step needs to be collaboratively, as opposed to just giving them their next step. That way they can understand, you can kind of help them go through the thought process. And by doing that, you're coaching them to then do that thought process on their own. Hopefully, eventually, they can do that on their own and they can figure out their next step. And that way they won't feel overwhelmed because they know, okay, this is the goal I'm responsible for, but I don't need to be overwhelmed by that. I have the ability to figure out what's my next step that I do this week, right? And as you meet with them, you can help them hopefully develop that capability and kind of keep them on track as well, whether they might, get off track or not. Helping them. Yeah, Sarah's point is great also. There might be other things going on with why they're resisting. Okay, well, last call for any questions. Otherwise, y'all go get lunch.
Yeah, not seeing any other questions in the chat. So
all right,
I'll go
I
ahead.
got this.
Oh, perfect. Yes,
Yeah.
the session's coming up after lunch.
Great stuff after lunch.
And I am putting in the chat, we do have our in-person closing session this afternoon. We do still have spots available. If you're on campus and want to come join us for some networking, please do so. We'd love to see you. Lead nominations for the executive board are open. Staff assembly elections are going to be taking place next week. So busy things for both. And then sign up for that EOD listserv. Lots of good stuff being offered on there. Staff conference is offered free thanks to our sponsors, the staff assembly, the EOD team, LEAD, and Schools First Credit Union. And all of the recordings will be uploaded to the UCR Learning Management System after the conference. Thank you all for joining us today.